Hey, what's up YouTube? Alright, I'm trying to do my public service announcement today. Okay, if you followed the vlogs the last couple days, you know I took a good tumble in the Destin Harbor the other day. Heidi's here to make sure that I cover all the points that need to be covered. Isn't that right, Heidi? Yeah, she says that's right. So, okay, I'm going to do a walk around right here with my Hobie Quest, okay, because my Outback is resting. So, I want to cover a few topics, and I'm not going to make it a flashy video because I want it to like hit home, and if you really want to learn this, I'm going to do a couple part series for this just to help people out and make sure I can maybe save at least one life because you took my advice. Alright, so for this video, I'm going to walk around this Hobie Quest. My Hobie Quest 13 right here. And then there's my Hobie Outback. Alright, so just a preface of this is, you know, I've done a lot of big water kayaking in the last few years, and a lot of sketchy situations with a lot of ill-equipped, a lot of unplanned and ill-equipped adventures. So I feel like I'm kind of qualified to talk about this topic of kayak safety, water survival. Okay, so first things first, I want to talk about life vests. Okay, this video is to save lives and not be flashy. Most of these videos are kind of like foo-foo-y, like you know, be nice about it, please wear your life vest. And this video is going to be about wear your doggone life vest because your ass is going to die and you're not big and tough like everybody thinks you are. Alright, so first things first, here's my life vest. This is a Stilla Quest kayak fishing life vest right here with the high back. Okay, this is probably one of your middle range safety vests. Okay, and this thing is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's got the cushy arms, or the cushy shoulder straps, a good quality zipper, and here is my whistle. Okay, this whistle, whether you like it or not and you don't want to buy it, is for a reason. So when your ass falls away from your kayak, gets separated in the dark, or if there's boats passing by, you can signal people. Okay, and if you're floating out there in the middle of the channel with hundreds of boats going by, you're gonna want this. Get it? And it's really loud. Get one that's Coast Guard approved. This one was for Ranger School and I had it laying around. So make sure you have a life vest. Make sure it's on you and not tucked away. If you're in shallow water, yeah, you can use common sense and you can not wear your life vest. If you're in, let's say, waist deep or chest water and you have a current, I'd say wear your life vest, okay? Because when you hit the water, odds of you getting this on while holding onto your kayak and making sure your paddle's not floating away and trying to scrounge your gear is going to be really hard, okay? Alright, last thing about this life vest. I like this life vest because I can swim with it. I can swim pretty well with this life vest on, okay? And it's light, and I know it is going to float. A lot of you guys like to use the canister ones that you either pull and they explode, or when they hit the water they explode and they pop out. Now I'm gonna say this is my theory, this is my personal opinion, you know, don't get mad or nothing. If you're relying on an old canister to save your life that probably nobody has checked in the last year or two, you're probably going to be survived when it doesn't pop and fill up, or that it doesn't fill up properly. Okay, or just because you hit the water doesn't mean you want your canister to deploy anyways. You know, like you want it to deploy when you want it to deploy. This, I can keep it on, and if I got to jettison it, one zip and it's off my shoulders, just like when you hit the water with a vest on in the Army with plates on. You pull that string and everything comes off of you. You've got a way out of it. Now, you know, that's just my opinion. I would rather have a full-on life vest because, one, it just makes me feel cozy and it keeps me warm in the winter. When I say really hard, when I took a tumble the other day, this was probably my, you know, 100th tumble. As I was tipping, I mean, because you're truly not going to understand this until you hit the water a couple times in sticky situations by yourself. Okay? I had been separated from Samantha. I was chasing a hat in some rough water in a little kayak that I had borrowed from somebody else. And as soon as I felt the kayak start to go, I immediately, because I've been through Army water survival training and I've been through a few things that, you know, just experience from kayak fishing and getting tumbled in the surf a lot. As soon as I tipped, I didn't have my life vest on and I was in shallow water. As soon as I tipped, first thing that went through my mind was, where's your life vest? Grab it, as I was going. So if this was my kayak, my life vest was right here as I was paddling. As I was paddling like this, okay? So as I was paddling and the kayak started to tip, first thing that went through my mind was grab the vest, throw it over an arm, because it wasn't zipped. I had it just like this. As soon as I went over, first thing was over the shoulder. Now I've got my life support, okay? So once I had it over the shoulder, I was able to maneuver, grab the side of the kayak. Actually, I grabbed the side of the kayak and I made sure my paddle was with me. Because when you go out on vacation and you rent a kayak, one, you're not going to know if it even leaks or not. Two, you're probably not going to have a tether for your paddle. And three, you're not going to know much about self-rescuing the kayak that you're using. Okay, the kayak I was using was a little dinky thing. It's an old kayak. Not an open water kayak like this one, okay? So, this one, when you are out of the kayak, getting back into it is a lot easier because it's a sturdier, bigger kayak. If you're in a little kayak, like a 10-footer or maybe a 12-footer, when you try to hop into it, it's going to be very rickety. And if you're in big water and it's rickety, you're going to have to really plan how you get back on the kayak. Alright, now word of advice about your vest being like this while you're in the water. The odds, I'm going to just go ahead and say this, the odds of putting this thing back on, if it's not on when you hit the water, the odds of getting it on are slim, okay? Slim of doing this. And being able to do this while you're trying to rescue your kayak, okay? I know a lot of you guys out there think you're He-Men and y'all can swim like fish. Well, I'm gonna let you know that not all of y'all are like that. And you know, y'all might dislike this video because I'm just trying to be straight up and save a life or two. But if you hit the water like where we were, the Destin Pass, at the wrong time and the current's ripping, by the time you hit the water and you get your vest over your shoulder and you gather yourself, you're going to be 100 yards away from where you started. And shallow water turns into deep water really fast, and in boat traffic you don't know if people are going to see you. And in a few situations, even like the other day, when a boater comes to help you, they're going to be more trouble than they're worth, because one guy's going to try to help you, the wife's going to be driving. The wife can't drive the boat, so they're hitting you with the boat. So like when I recovered myself, I recovered fast because I got a little experience. And I straddled the kayak just like this, but like I said, it was a little sit on top kayak. Now when she hit me with the boat, the kayak went back over because it was an old kayak and it was already starting to fill with water from being upside down. So once I recovered again, and they handed me the cooler, which I shouldn't have had on the kayak to begin with because it was probably overweight, it tipped me again. By this time, I was probably 500 yards where I started because of the wind and the water. Now, I'm trying to be as real with this as possible. Now, if I would have been in my kayak that I researched and I have all the experience in, kayak wouldn't have flipped. The recovery would have been way simpler. I would have been back in the game easy. But I was struggling with my life vest because that was most important. And then number 2 was the kayak. And number 3, the paddle was not tethered to the kayak, okay, via a kayak leash or a paddle leash. This paddle is going like this overboard. It's usually going to float. I would make sure you know how buoyant your paddle is. The cheap paddles you get from Walmart and stuff, or you borrow from somebody, this is not a cheap paddle, but that you borrow from somebody, it's probably going to be heavy aluminum. It might not float, it might float, it might barely float, and it might be just so poorly designed you don't get any push with the paddle to begin with. So this thing gives you a little flotation, and sometimes it's enough to allow you to stay afloat if you know how to doggy paddle and spread yourself out in the water. And you could float with just this, maybe. The next thing I want to talk about is do not panic, okay? When you know you're going into the water, you have to stay focused. You have to say into your mind, first things first, one step at a time, okay? When you feel that kayak go like this, you say, life vest check. Okay, I know I can float. Next thing I gotta do, focus. Where's the boat? One hand on the boat. All right, the kayak. 2, where's your paddle? Now, if it's leashed, it's solved. If it's not, that's your only mode of transportation. You better get a hold of it. Now, you have one hand on your kayak and one hand on your leash, or one hand on your paddle. If you have one hand on the paddle, it's gonna be extremely hard to do the next thing I'm gonna talk about, and that's to recover the kayak. So, if it's flipped, you got to flip it back over. And I hope that you go and research every way to recover your kayak that's on the internet, and you go out and you practice it. I suggest you go out into the water above your comfort level in deep water, and you try to flip your kayak and recover it, and do it 100 times. Okay, because learning to do it when you're in the water in a sticky situation is not the right place to learn to do it. I wish I could make this a funny, cheeky video, but I'm just trying to be serious right now that learning how to recover your kayak or your boat, or even if you fall off a pier, is super important, because you need to have a plan and you need to know what steps to take, because you got about 30 seconds before your ass drowns. Maybe 2 minutes, and then beyond that, you're tired, you're sluggish, and I guarantee you half you guys have been out there drinking. And when, you know, if you've been drinking, you're dehydrated, and you're probably not thinking properly, which will lead you to not wear your vest, or think you can just cruise across the channel with no problem. And you get overconfident, you get complacent, and that's when situations happen. So I want to rewind a second, okay? Okay, starting from the first, before you even launch the kayak. You're heading off the sand. Have a float plan. Have a drift plan. Know which way the wind's going. Know which way the current's going. Okay? And make sure everybody in your party has a way to signal if you're broken up. And everybody in your party has a recovery plan. If one person goes down, person B is recovering person A. If a guy with a lot of equipment goes down, person A and B is recovering person C. And you have a recovery plan. If you're split up and you can't recover that person's floating away, they have a rendezvous point in mind where Group A floats to Island A, and the party that's still floating is able to go, get the vehicle, take a cell phone, call the Coast Guard, Sheriff's Department, or whatever form of rendezvous you have set up. Have a plan. Also, it probably wouldn't help if you're around a pass. You know exactly where that pass goes, and once the current stops taking you somewhere, you know about where you're going to spill out at. If that's Eglin Air Force Base, you know you can pull ashore Eglin Air Force Base, and you can start the whole party all over again. Somebody's got a cell phone, you call higher, and somebody can come get you. That's what the Coast Guard's for, and people are afraid to call the Coast Guard, but if you're in a truly bad situation, that's what they're for. That's what Harbor Patrol for, and all these other Sheriff's Department out there, FWC, they'll come and get you. Don't try to be a hero. Survive first. All right, so let's play a little game. Kayak goes over, paddle's gone, and the kayak flips, just like this. Alright, the kayak has flipped, alright? Now I'm going to try to do this because I don't have a person filming with me, and I want to show you the best I can. Now, if you were able to get it over one shoulder, odds are you're like this. Now, if you're like this, your vest is going to be flopping off of you probably the majority of the time, but at least you got it with you. Don't let it come off your arm. In this situation, it's going to be truly hard to get this over here, right? Now, please make sure you don't have a bunch of lines or like tethers, or if you're one of those guys that leashes everything to you, that those aren't floating around you, because you will truly get hung up. And Heidi is trying to tell me something. All right. So you'll truly get hung up on all those different leashes, all right? Because the odds of getting this around here like this and not losing this is going to be slim to none. So if you're in a vacation kayak, remember that, okay? Even if you got some string around, leash your paddle to yourself or to the kayak. Because doing this is really hard. Now, okay, let's throw the paddle out the window, all right? Now, hopefully at this point you've taken this thing seriously and you've gone out and researched a bunch of ways to recover your kayak. Okay, now do it old Navy SEAL style, and you know, whether you attach a rope to the other side of the kayak or not. Those big pro angler guys, you need to have your doggone rope on the other side of the kayak to a handle so you can do this maneuver times 10 because your kayak's really heavy. Okay. All right. Now, you're in the water. You're like this. You're going to have to get on top. You're going to have to jump up on your kayak like this and grab the opposite side of your kayak. All right? And if you're in deep water, it's going to look a little different than this because your legs are floating down. Now, once you've reached the other end, you're going to have to pull back on the kayak. All right? It's hard to do it on the ground. You have to pull back on it like this. And now the kayak is right side up. Okay? Now, once you're right side up, if you have a thin, long kayak, this one's going to be a little trickier because you're wet and you're going to have to, like I said, practice this. Now, you're floating along. If you have to, you can swim the kayak just like this to the shore and you can figure it out there. But if you're supermoto, high speed, low drag type guy, here's how you do it. You're here. You're going to kick up and you want to get across the kayak, right? And whether you throw your legs over this way or this way is going to be up to how bad you're struggling. Now, once you're here, you want to get long, get over the kayak, and try to straddle it just like this. And you're back in the seat. And your legs are wide, and you're straddling the boat. It's a really hard video to make because I'm by myself. But once you get to here, you're good if it hasn't filled up with water yet. These hatches fill up with water. Some better than others, some not so bad. Now, once you're here, you're pretty much safe. See how the paddle's way out there? Hopefully it is leashed, okay? And if you're a Hobie guy, your drive is leashed in your kayak. Make sure the drive does not fall out. Make sure it's tethered to your kayak, okay? Because that Hobie drive, one, when it comes out, it's a missile. It's heavy and it'll hurt. Two, you don't want to lose a $500 item, okay? Because that's your mode of transportation when you get ready to leave the area. Now, once you're back in the kayak, if you haven't zipped this thing up, zip it up. All right? Now you're in the kayak. Now you're ready to get home. Now, we're starting this all over again. At this time, it could be bad, rough water. You gotta get your bow into the big waves and or into the wind, and you gotta collect yourself. Your gear is probably all over the place, and you're thinking, I just got humbled, I'm all wet, I don't know where anything is. By this time, I had lost my GoPro, I had lost my sandals and my shirt, Probably if you've got your wallet sitting around, you've lost that too. And now you got to figure out how you're going to get out of the situation. All right, now, hopefully your float plan has figured you out, or you have figured out your float plan. If you know you've drifted 300 or 400 yards, or if you were fishing the bridge and it is now a little light in the distance, got to collect yourself. So if you know you got an outgoing tide and you just floated out the destined bridge, the next stop is ocean, okay? It is the Gulf of Mexico. So you better figure out how you're gonna get to shore, get out of that rip current. Okay, now once you've got out of that rip current, hopefully you have a rendezvous point that you have figured out with your friends, or you had a float plan you left with somebody before you went out on the big water, okay? I always either Facebook pin myself or tell people that know the water, where I'm going, what I'm doing, because whether you think you're gonna roll your kayak or not, you could have a catfish barb stuck in your hand, or anything. You could be tangled up in line, you could have braid cut you, you could be tangled in the braid, you could have a hook in your hand, you could have the sky's the limits of the things that can make you not be able to survive in the water. Okay, so this video is getting a little long. I'm gonna do a part 2 and probably a part 3. I think the next video is gonna be a drift plan and how to battle the winds and the current on a chalkboard, and hopefully this saves somebody's life. Alright, in recapping this first video, I'm just trying to keep it real, I'm trying to be serious, and I'm trying to keep you honest. That you're not as strong and tough, as great a swimmer as you think you are. When you hit that water, you're going to have a realization that, oh crap, it's up to me to survive, nobody's coming to help me. And if you're out there in the Gulf, nobody's coming to help you for hours. If you're out there in the bay at night, nobody's coming to help you for hours. Next stop, the pass. Okay, so be serious about this. Wear your life vest. Don't drink and try to traverse big water. Stay hydrated, stay motivated, and do not get flustered. Do not panic, and have confidence in your ability. That if you fail, you try again. If you fail, you try again. And if you fail until you can't do it anymore, F the kayak. You've got your vest on, swim to safety, okay? Somebody will find your kayak. If not, you just donated it to Davy Jones' locker, okay? So I hope you like this video. Please comment below. If you've got any other techniques that you want to share with people, put down below. Hopefully it saves one life, maybe 2, maybe 100, maybe 1,000, okay? Because I don't think people have harped on this enough, that you will be humbled really fast the first couple times you hit the water, the first few rods you break, the first few GoPros you lose. So I hope you like this, and I'll see you guys next time.